interview, set up everything, because, as I said, it was my first time through it. But, you know, I can't say, there aren't enough words to say how excited I am and what the future of the Mavs is going to look like. So with that, I won't talk too long. I'll turn it over to our CEO, Ms. Cint Marshall.
Thanks, boss. Good morning, everybody. I cannot tell you how thankful I am to be sitting in here unmasked, vaccinated, in this arena again with all of you. It has just been far too long since we've been together and had an in-person press conference, so I'm just excited about that and just happy to be back here in this arena. We've been actually here all week. We have our seat selection activity going on the business side, so I just want to welcome all of you, but also we have some folks here who are selecting their seats, and so I'm excited that they get a chance to get an inside look early at what the future holds, because that's what you will hear about in just a few minutes. I have had the pleasure and the opportunity to spend time with both of these leaders over the past few weeks, and I am enjoying watching how all of the puzzle pieces are being put together to further build a championship culture and thus a championship team. So I want to say to both of you, it's been a pleasure already spending time with you. We're very excited about this upcoming season, and to tell you more about this great season that's ahead of us and more about himself, I just want to turn it over to Nico Harrison, our new General Manager and President of Basketball Operations.
Thank you, Cint. I appreciate it. Before I get started, I want to thank my wife, because she's really been like amazing in the rock in the family and helped raise two beautiful young daughters. So thank you for that. And I honestly wouldn't be here without that. So Darlise, thank you. I also like to thank Mark for entrusting me in this position. You know, I don't take it lightly that I'm the first one he's hired, and I'm really excited about the opportunity. So thank you, Mark. The reason why I'm excited about this opportunity is really the coach, the team, the fans, the owner, and also the city of Dallas, which I do have a connection to. Back in 2002, when I first started at Nike, I lived in Dallas, and I had the opportunity to work with Finn, to work with Dirk, to work with Nash, and the city is amazing. My roommate in college is from here, and two of my teammates that I played with overseas live here, so I feel like Dallas is home. So I'm really excited to be back home. My approach is really simple. It's going to be about servant leadership that kind of empowers the team and the staff to be at their best. And I believe that's essential and super important. Communication, communicating often, communicating truthfully. I think that's a very important ingredient. And then a culture that everybody wants to be a part of. The fans want to be a part of, the staff wants to be a part of, and the team wants to be a part of. And I think if you have those three ingredients, you're going to win. I really do. Before I pass the mic to Jason, I think it's important that I thank Phil Knight and Nike, because through 19 years, the opportunity that they've given me has prepared me for this job. And so I really thank them for that. I also want to thank Finn and KG and the rest of the staff. Everybody's been extremely welcoming to me. And so I thank them for that. And the fans, go Mavs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I guess this is hello Dallas for the third time. It's been an incredible journey. I would like to start before we talk about, thanking Mark, Cint, Nico, Keith Grant, Finley, and Dirk for this great opportunity to be the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. I would also like to thank, because this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for my family, my beautiful wife, Portia, and our three kids, Chance, Noah, and Cooper. What it means to be a head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. What a dream come true. What an incredible journey to be drafted, to win Rookie of the Year, to win a championship, and then to come back to be the head coach, to have this opportunity to empower our young players on and off the floor. What it means to be the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. We have the craft values. Sin has talked about since day one with me. And that's what's going to help us win a championship. Building the foundation on and off the floor is our values, and that's craft. But understanding hard work and having fun, but doing it with great people and great leaders. And I'm so happy. Again, I'm a kid in a candy store because this is a dream come true. And if anyone tells you out there that dreams don't come true, let them come talk to me. So I've talked enough, and I know you guys got a lot of questions. But again, I'm excited to be back here in Dallas. I know we have the best fans in the country, and I can't wait for the opportunity for us to raise another banner here. So thank you.
Yes, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.
And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Brad Towns of Dallas Morning News. Mark, as you indicated, you've only had 2 GMs and 3 head coaches in 21 years. Why did you decide that at this time that change was necessary? And what specifically about these guys drew you to them?
Well, obviously with coach, I didn't make that decision, but with general manager, I just thought it was time for a new voice. And, you know, the league has changed in the 21 years since I've been here. Players have changed. How you build a championship team has changed. And sometimes you just have to look to have a different tool set. And I just thought that between Jay Kidd and, again, with a lot of feedback from our Brain Trust, he was a voice that could lead our players and, you know, create a culture on the court and off the court that really motivated them to perform. And with Nico, I don't think it's hard to realize the success he's had at Nike, and unless you really dig in and look at his background. To go from, you know, just being a baller, you know, to at Montana State, to taking basically a low-level position and working his way up over 19 years. Talk about a commitment, and not just being there, but the levels of success he's had, not only for himself, but the way he's empowered people around him to have success. He demonstrated a long history of putting people in a position to succeed and then enabling them to succeed. And that's a unique skill set that's hard to find. And I think that requires not only being a great communicator, not only being a great evaluator of talent, not only being a great evaluator of people, but also being a great enabler of success. And so that's why when, you know, Nico's name came up, it was like, oh my God, you know, because I'd known Nico a little tangentially and a little bit and just chatting because he was always around. But then when in doing the homework, it was a no-brainer. So I felt very fortunate when he said yes.
Isaac Harris, Mavs.com, Locked On Mavs. Jason, after stops in Brooklyn and Milwaukee, how have you grown as a head coach over these past few years in LA?
Good morning, Isaac. Well, I didn't get a chance to thank the Lakers. Understanding Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, Kurt, and Linda Rambis for giving me that opportunity. But when I got the job under Frank, it was an incredible thing because I didn't know that I was going to be dealing with not just a great coach, but a great human being. And so what I got to learn for the last 2 years is something that I didn't know when I started in Brooklyn. And so for me to be able to call Frank and tell him if he's watching the Dallas Mavs, does he see anything that I've taken? And so I've just been very blessed on this journey to meet great people and have these great opportunities. And so I will take what I learned from Frank and apply it here, because I think when you look at Frank's defense, it's been #1 in the last 2 years. And so here in Dallas, we're going to play a little defense because we know that we can score the ball. And so we're going to pay attention to the small things, which will lead us down the road of winning that trophy.
Hey, Tim Cato with The Athletic. Nico, my understanding is that you had been approached by teams before. What about this opportunity, when it became available, made sense for you to transfer over from Nike to the NBA now? And what do you feel like from Nike is immediately transferable to your new role here with an NBA team?
Sure. Great question. Honestly, I have been approached by several teams, but, Nike, I was an executive there and I had a dream job. So for me to leave a dream job to go to another dream job, everything has to check the boxes. So you got to think of the city, the coach, the fans, everything, the owner, and it checked all the boxes. And so Mark and I spent time talking and our values aligned, and so it was actually a no-brainer.
Mike Ducey from Fox 4. Jason, you talk about the benefit of your time with the Lakers. In terms of your head coaching experiences before this, what did you learn from those, from successes and failures that will serve you well here?
That's a great question, Mike. To understand that you don't know everything. As a player, making that transition to becoming a head coach, you tend to think you know everything. Well, that's not true. And so just understanding there's smarter people around me, to take that advice, that communication, being able to develop. We have a young team. I know we can talk about Luka, and I know those questions will come, but he's only 22. And so we still have a long ways to go to be that perfect player. And so just understanding my time in Milwaukee and Brooklyn, but my time around stars, in LA, being able to share that journey and that experience with my players, it will be helpful because we all understand we're not going to go undefeated. There's going to be times that gets testy, and then how do we respond when things get hard?
Chris Henderson, chendo.com and mosportstalk.com. All right, Nico, so I got to ask you, being a Nike guy, you had the opportunity to work with Kobe Bryant, even some of the top guys at Nike, and then also guys outside of Nike, Damian Lillard as well, the relationships. Can you talk about the importance of that with your new position and everything and how that can really benefit the situation with Dallas and everything?
Yeah, I think it's my relationships extend even broader than that. 19 years in basketball, I have relationships that go across the industry from grassroots to college to professional. So, people tend to think about the big-time pros and all that. And, yeah, that was a part of what I did. But really my relationships are broader than that, and I think it's going to serve me well in this position.
Mike Leslie from WFA. For both Nico and Jason, I'm curious both of your perspectives on this. You mentioned Luka Doncic obviously is the linchpin to everything here in Dallas. What do you like about what he does? What do you think is maybe his biggest weakness? And then what do you think needs to pair with him to take this team to the next level? What are you looking for in that second person?
My answer is real short. I love everything. But it's not a negative. He's only 22 years old. And so for the leadership group that's up here, is our job to help, share our experiences in life that can help him be a better player, but also a better person. And so I don't know if that's a negative, but I think just the age, because he can do everything else at a very high level. And so my job is to give him the answers to the test, and his job is to execute that on the floor. And so he does that at a very high level, not just with the Mavs, but with also his national team. And so I think we're all excited to have this opportunity to be around him.
Yeah, and I'll add, it's tough to nitpick with an all-NBA player. So the best thing you can do is surround him by a Hall of Fame coach that played his position and let those two vibe off each other. And I think that's going to help him tremendously.
The number two guy?
Yeah, just to pair with him.
Well, right now, you look at KP, again, this is a positive summer for him. He's healthy, right? This isn't a time where he's coming off an injury. I think he's really excited about this opportunity. I think he's a perfect fit for Luka. Again, he has a skill set that a lot of people don't have in our league. And so as a coach, I'm very excited to be able to work with him.
You got it. Kevin Gray, 105.3 The Fan. This question is for both St. Marshall and for Mark. What in the process made you comfortable with ultimately selecting Jason as the head coaching hire in your conversations with him throughout this process to give you the idea that this was the right hire at this time for this franchise?
Take it. And I'm sure many of you know that Jason and I had some great conversations, and I'm sure at some point he'll talk about it because I don't feel comfortable giving his words. But I definitely felt comfortable as we talked about our values, which most of you know are character, respect, authenticity, fairness, teamwork, and safety, both physical and emotional safety. We talked about those values, what they mean, how we demonstrate those, what we look for in our employees as we are a values-based employer. We talked about our code of conduct and what we expect from people who are on the payroll of the Dallas Mavericks. And we talked about our great organization and all the wonderful people, many of them are here today, who work in this organization. And then we talked about his past. We talked about some of the history. And he walked me through his journey, which I will call it a journey. He walked me through that. And at the end of that process, I very much felt like we were doing the right thing, didn't feel like we were undermining our zero tolerance policy or our values or our code of conduct at all. It's values-based employment, and I believe we have brought in two leaders that have values, and their values are aligned with ours. I look at their families. Their family values are aligned with ours, and so I'm just excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what Sin has said, I turned to our expert. We, obviously, when Jason's name came up, it wasn't, an unknown, and it was something that we were going to have to understand before we can make a decision. And we fortunately have somebody who is not only an amazing business person, but also has a background and experience in dealing with personnel situations that I don't have. And so I turned to the person that really is one of the rocks of this organization. Again, not only dealing with people and defining the culture, but also taking people that have passed and making them stronger, helping them understand how they can be better. And we went through this process to know that, and it's not just with our head coach and Jason, but everybody that we bring in. We have a process that we go through that enables us to make a determination whether or not they can be part of the culture that we're defining. And beyond that, once you're in, there's still an ongoing set of responsibilities that you have to uphold. There's training, there are reviews, there are, again, ongoing processes that Sin has in place and has put in place that make sure that once you get here, you're able to uphold the values of the Dallas Mavericks. And so it was a process, and fortunately, it's something we already had in place. This is not something that we just had to create for a unique set of circumstances. This is who we are. This is how we integrate people. This is how we evaluate people on an ongoing basis. This is how we define and retain and support and grow our culture to make it better on an ongoing basis. And so having all these things allowed us to, put Jason and Nico and everybody that we hired through this process.
Dale Smith Purnell, CBS 11. This question's for Jason. Welcome back, first and foremost. Jason, good to see you.
Thank you.
First and foremost, have you had any conversations with Luka? And if so, how have those conversations gone? And secondly, you talked about all the great things that Luka does. What more would you like to see in his progression moving forward?
To answer your first question, yes, we've talked by phone, but there's also a new way to conversate, and that's by text for the younger generation that are, as us older guys or older people are trying to figure out. But no, I've talked to Luka. It was a great conversation. He's excited. Again, he's focused on his national team, and what he did was incredible. So to answer your second question, I have to wait until I can look under the hood. I've been I've been on the back row right now watching it on TV, and so I want to, be able to touch the car. And the more I can spend time with him, then I can answer that question. From afar, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's, poetry in motion. If you look back at when Dirk started, he's probably a little bit more advanced than what Dirk can do at 21, 22 years old, but Dirk did finish as a Hall of Famer, and I think Luka has that same aspirations, to be a Hall of Famer at the end of the day.
Dwayne Price, Maps.com. Jason, when you first got here in 1994, I remember fans saying they couldn't wait to come to the game because they were going to see something that you did that they'd never seen before. Fast forward over 20 years later, they're saying the same thing about Luka. How much of yourself do you see in Luka?
Great question, Dwayne. In '94, there was no HD, so the things they saw were probably amazing because they didn't get to see them. Today we have 10K, 12K, so everything is clear. But Luka is special. Again, we talk about his age at 22 years old, and he's been a pro for a while, but, we can always get better. And I think his appetite is big, and I've been around stars like that in Milwaukee, in LA, also in Brooklyn. But it's just, now that you can see things clearer, his imagination is at the highest level, which is a great thing to be a part of. My imagination, again, because things were grainy and they weren't clear, I tried a lot of things, and I know I drove my coaches crazy, but I think he still has that, that flair, that ability to try something. I won't get mad because I've been in those shoes. So just to understand, my job is to help give him the answers so he can have success and take a lot of that pressure off of him.
Callie Kaplan with the Dallas Morning News. Jason, Sint alluded to the conversation that you all had during the hiring process, so I'm curious what you took away from that and how you think you've progressed or what you've learned from the journey that she mentioned.
The conversation with Sint was special. Some conversations are private, so I'm not going to tell you everything, but the journey, that I've been on has not always been perfect, but we learn from our mistakes, understanding God is great, and that, giving the opportunity to prove yourself, right, to learn from your mistakes, to have the opportunity to talk about it. So, when you talk about the Mavs and the tools that they have here, they have Don Cockstein. Mental health is a big thing, and not just here with the Mavs, but throughout our country, throughout our world. And to have a Don Cockstein here to be able to talk to help, those are the tools that I learned in '01, from a gentleman by the name of Bat Mack, who helped me with those, and I was able to sharpen those tools when I met Don Cockstein. And so now, being a coach, I can go out and talk about these things because a lot of people are afraid to talk. It's all right to talk because when you carry that type of weight, nothing good comes from that. And so those are the conversations and adjust that we had, and they were great conversations.
Nick Angstead, Locked On Network. This question is for Nico. What do you think this roster needs as currently constructed to win a title?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, Jason and I and Mark, we've all talked a lot. Like, I'm excited to get my hands and watch Jason get his hands on the roster because I really believe when you change the culture, when you bring in servant leadership and constant communication, I think the whole team is going to rise up like overnight. I really believe that.
Mike Fisher, 105.3 The Fan and DallasBasketball.com. First of all, to Jason, when you talk about the privacy of your journey, how important at the same time do you think it is to share and be clear about it and maybe even use it as a teaching tool? And then a basketball question for both Jason and Nico, the fit of Kristaps Porzingis here going forward.
Yeah, I think it's very important to one, be comfortable to talk about it because no one's perfect. And to be able to talk about mistakes so someone else can learn from is big. As a coach, as a parent, as a teacher, these are the opportunities that, we need more of. Because if we shy away from it, it doesn't help the situation. And so I'm one not to shy away from the situation. I'm here to help as a basketball coach, as a father, and also as a teammate. And so I'm excited about this opportunity to be able to do that. To answer that second question, I said it earlier, I think we're excited about KP being healthy. I think he's excited, he's ready to work, and I think you're going to see a different KP.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think I can add much more than what Jason said. I think he said it perfectly.
Yeah, I would like to add something on KP. I think he's been unfairly maligned. You know, during the playoffs, he did exactly what he was asked to do, exactly. He put team first, and he put his own personal statistics, knowing that people were going to give him a hard time because, as he said to me and others, he just wants to win. And to Jay Kidd's point and Nico's point, this is going to be the first season with the Dallas Mavericks where he's coming in healthy. And he's able to work on things other than just rehabbing to get his body ready, to get stronger, to work on his game, something he has not been able to do. And, you know, I think, you know, I even hear from my own son, and I've got to sit him down and say, you don't understand, right? You know, to Jay Kidd's point, you know, you can't teach 7'4", and you can't teach shooting, you can't teach his ability to create shots, but now he's going to have a chance to have some continuity, and that's something he has not had since he's effectively been a rookie. And so I think, you know, with what Jay Kidd and Nico have planned, the ability for KP to work, you know, I think him and Luka are going to be a lot better together, and as a team, to Nico's point, I think you're going to see a lot of things that are going to make us far better as a team.
Kevin Sherrington, Dallas Morning News. Mark, is Bob Vilguera still on the payroll?
You know, I don't talk about anybody who's on or off the payroll. You know, never have, never will, so, because that just starts a slippery slope.
So can you talk about the hierarchy then in the front office and how that will be?
The hierarchy has been pretty much the way it's always been. Me, Nico, Jay Kidd, Sint, you know, there's no big change or anything.
Tim McMahon, ESPN. Jason, when you look at Luka, do you think you need to take a little bit off of his plate? And, you know, how do you go about doing that, whether that's addressing the roster this summer or, you know, something you can do coaching-wise?
Yeah, I think when you look at the numbers, he has the ball a lot, and he is a special player when he does have the ball. But, you know, as we continue through this summer and this process of getting to know each other, I will throw him some different questions to get his opinion, you know, on playing without the ball, not having to bring the ball up every time and start the play, playing, you know, getting him on the second side, because when you look, you know, at the fourth quarter, you know, he wears down at times, not all the time, but he can wear down. And we all have turned the ball over, you know, in an important part of the game. But my job is to put him in a position to be successful. Sometimes we can take for granted he is 22 and feel like he's, you know, not going to get tired. But there is a longevity to this piece, too, in that we want him to play, you know, for a long time.
Hey, Jason. Jessica Armstrong, Valley Sports. I have two questions for you. One, have you finalized your coaching staff? And two, aside from Luka, what is your philosophy and plans for developing the supporting cast?
Well, we haven't finalized the staff yet. We're working on that. That's a process. There's been a lot of interviews, a lot of conversations, and so we're in the midst of getting that done. And then also for developing, we feel like we get the right guys on the coaching staff that have developed before. We've done it at a very high level. There's a team plan right now that we were a part of with, you know, two players there with Chris Middleton and Giannis that we helped develop. We might not have given them all the keys or all the answers to the test, but we were there at the beginning. And so we feel that with a little hard work and some fun that we can get, you know, a Josh Green to the next level. And so that's why we're here. We're here to help develop. Again, we're going to develop Luka. He's only 22 years old, so he's part of that young group, and so it'll be fun. But again, everybody has to do their part, and it starts with hard work.
Stephen Stevenson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Mark, for the sake of clarification, how would you characterize your position with basketball operations? Does Nico make the final call on things? Or?
No, I always do, because it's a lot of money. So it always comes down to money at some point. But yeah, it's a team effort. But, you know, one thing I will say is we didn't have a lot of structure before, and one of the values that, and one of the skill sets that Nico brings is putting together an organization that has defined roles so everybody knows what they're supposed to do and succeed in them. But I do understand that, you know, you can't give somebody a responsibility without also giving them authority. And so, but at the end of the day, the reality is when you're making commitments for, you know, 50, 100, $200 million, the person who writes the checks has got to be the one that signs off. You're okay with that, right, Nico?
It makes sense to me.
Hi, it's Dorothy Gentry with iMessenger Media. Coach, who inspired you as a young athlete, and how will you use that inspiration as Mavs coach?
Oh, great question. Magic Johnson was my idol as a kid, playing on the playground, throwing the ball off the house, trying to throw those passes, smile like Magic. Unfortunately, I stopped growing, but he was my idol. And the things that he has done, you know, just not on the court, but off the court, the impact that he has is still my idol today. The things that he's gone through to fight, you know, and so to be able to share those stories with my young players, not just Magic. There's quite a few players, Gary Payton, John Stockton, when you talk about the greatest of all point guards, to be able to call them and have them come in and talk to Luka and talk to the team about what it means to be great. And so those are, you know, hopefully I answered your question, but when you talk about a sports figure, Magic Johnson is right there at the top.
Brad Townsend, Dallas Morning News. Jason, not naming names, but some of us are old enough to remember your dad being around the franchise a lot in the 90s, always wearing that Mavs jacket.
We still got it.
Okay. You know, I wonder what kind of things have been going through your mind. Are you having flashbacks to 94, 08, 11? What's going through your mind right now?
That's a great question, Brad. My dad was a big part of my life, not just being a father, but he was like a teammate. He traveled. He got the opportunity because of his job. I don't know if we all know, Trans World America was TWA, doesn't exist anymore, but he got to fly, come to a lot of games, and he was just someone that was a security blanket, you know, someone that I could always talk to. He was critical of my games. But if you got to know my dad, he would talk to anybody. It didn't matter if you were the owner of the team or if you were someone that was going to, you know, be a janitor. He loved to talk and laugh. And so for him looking down to see where I got drafted and today to see where I am as a head coach, I know he's smiling.
Hey, Tim Cato with The Athletic again. I have 2%. First, did you see any need to independently investigate events from Jason's past during this hiring process?
I did it myself when I spoke with him. I did talk to a couple of experts prior to actually speaking with him to make sure that I was approaching it the right way, asking the right questions, not relying on just my judgment or my past. And so I talked to him myself. I didn't give it to anybody else.
And then you said that this hiring you feel doesn't undermine the zero tolerance policy. What does that policy mean, and why would this hiring not undermine that?
That policy is something that I stated at the end of February 2018 when Mark and I sat here and we had our press conference, and I said that Dallas Mavericks have a set of values: character, respect, authenticity, fairness, teamwork, and safety, both physical and emotional safety. We have a zero tolerance policy for misconduct, sexual harassment, false allegations, or anything that puts our employees in danger. And so if you don't If you don't adhere to our code of conduct and our values, you don't get the benefit of enjoying employment at the Dallas Mavericks. And I have no doubt these fellas will adhere.
Hi there, Maria Guerrero with NBC5. I have two questions for you. Ms. Sint, you guys have been you say y'all are being very transparent about this, so let's have this conversation with our fans out there. Ms. Sint, what would you tell a woman suffering domestic violence right now, women who are perhaps heartbroken about this decision? And Coach Kidd, what would you tell men who are domestic violence abusers about what they need to do to change, as you, sir, say you have changed? Thank you.
And I'll just respond. I can't speak to all the women out there as a domestic violence survivor myself. I can tell you what I have told myself. And what I have told myself when I have been in pain, what I have told myself when I have thought about what my mom and my siblings have gone through, is that it's inappropriate, it's not right what we went through, and that we have gone through our own process. We've gone through our own journey. We've gotten counseling. We've done the things that we've needed to do to get on with our lives. I'm a woman of faith, and so I have spent a lot of time on my knees and a lot of time praying to get to where I am right now, where I could actually talk to you about this. And so, as I said when we had our press conference a few years ago, that my heart goes out to anyone who has suffered at the hands of another person. And so what I can do is continue to pray for them. I can't give anybody advice because I don't know their own circumstances. I know my circumstances.
To answer your second part, this is a serious matter. And the first step is you have to get help. And if you don't get help, nothing changes. So you have to get help.
Hey, Jason, Chuck Cooperstein, Mavs Radio. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Chuck.
You mentioned working with Frank Vogel the last couple of years. When you were in Milwaukee, you were pretty aggressive defensively in things that you wanted to trap and do a lot of things. What did you learn from Frank that is going to translate to the roster that you have here right now?
Well, just understanding the concept. You know, you have to have a foundation defensively and offensively, and then you're going to build out from there. Understanding the last names of the jerseys do help when you talk about AD and LeBron and their IQ, and I believe that we have a high IQ basketball team, and so it's not an individual thing, it's a team concept of defense. Today's players are too talented to be guarded one-on-one, and so you have to understand his positioning and understand that there's a trust factor, that you have help. And so from day one, that's what we will preach. And you'll see us out here playing hard, but you're going to see us play defense and that we're going to trust one another.
Back here, Pedro Silva, KUVN Univision Dallas. This question is either for Jason or Mark. Is there any possibility of J.J. Barea rejoining the organization, and have there been any talks about him joining the coaching staff?
Conversations I've had with JJ have not been related to coaching. That's up to these guys to decide. But I've told JJ he's got a job anytime he wants one. Now, what that job is, he's got to convince these guys, whether it's coach or whether it's scouting or whether it's just being out in community relations, like we have Rolando and some of our other great Mavericks legacies.
To echo what Mark just said, we're in the process, right? And we've talked to JJ, so we will work to see if that's feasible this season. But we do have a plan for past Mavs who do want to get into coaching. We are inviting them to Summer League, into training camp, to see if they really want to coach. There's one thing to say I want to coach, but then do you really want to coach? Because it's not easy. There's a lot of work, there's long hours that are put in, and so that's something that we want to set up as a program this summer at Summer League, is to invite Tyson Chandler, JJ to Summer League to participate, to see if they really want to do it.
Okay, in the interest of time, we'll do a couple more, guys.
Good
Good morning. I am Valencia King with Real Talk Sports. Thank you for your time. My question is for you, Jason. I'm sure that you've spoken with your rookies thus far about what you may want them to work on during their first professional offseason. But overall, what advice have you given them about making the most since it is their first professional offseason?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a special situation, right? It's a wraparound season. It's a short summer. This is going to be a quick turn. And so for our young guys, one, we got to see what we have, right? We got to play them. They're going to play a lot this summer in Summer League, but they've already been in the gym working, understanding that we have some great young men, and we want to give them the opportunity. And then also, we got to help them. And so spending a lot of time in the gym and just, again, seeing what we have under the hood. This summer, again, Josh Green won't be playing with us due to he's playing great for the national team, for Australia's national team. But there are some that we have to see play to make that decision. But we're going to all be in the gym working. And so if you ever want to come by and see, these young men will be there working.
And last question for Raphael.
All right, this question is for Nico. First of all, I'm Raphael Barlow with NBA Draft Junkies and Locked On NBA Draft. I know you're new to the job, and the Mavs currently don't have a pick, but have you had a chance to evaluate this draft class?
Raphael, I've evaluated the last 19 draft classes, so yeah, yes, I have.
Okay, and with that, we'll wrap up. We'll do some pictures up on stage, but I speak for the entire organization. I think when we thank you for your continued coverage of the Mavs through the bubble season, through a complicated 2020-21 season, and we look forward to seeing you back here soon. Thanks, guys. Brandon, you guys good?